A certificate of completion will be emailed to all the participants enrolled through Eventbrite. Q&As will be available on the Child Nutrition website at the link provided here. And we thank you for your attendance and your attention to all of these details. At this time, I'll introduce Deb Eglin, the Assistant Director of the Child Nutrition and Food Distribution Programs. Deb? Deb, you will need to unmute yourself.
Right. Hello there. I am going to put up my screen to share now, and I hope I get the right one. This one. Okay, is my PowerPoint up there? Okay, so this is challenges in the kitchen. And we do know that you worked really hard this last year and this last spring, but it might be even worse this fall because you don't even know what you're doing, I guess. Anyway, first of all, I'd like to say I do have some things in here that are pictures of products and equipment. So any products that we show are meant only as an example of what you could use. It doesn't mean that NDDPI endorses any specific brands or products instead of other things. And also, some of you have no cases of COVID at all in your county, so you're really lucky. You might not feel the need to make any changes doing social distancing or providing touchless POS and individually wrapped items. Each school is free to come up with their own plan. It can be unique to your school, and you can even change it later. So we do not have a one size fits all, but we're going to try to give you some ideas. Okay, right now this is the map, and if you can see there are like 6 counties with no cases. They're probably thinking easy peasy, we don't have to do anything, but that might change. So, does anyone out there know what their school plan is? They've got it totally nailed down. I know what I need to do. I don't hear any roaring people wanting to get unmuted. Well, what happens when people aren't using the same playbook or going in the same direction? I'm going to show this little movie. Don't click on this link because otherwise it'll show twice.
Deb, we're not seeing anything.
Uh-oh. Okay, I need to do the sharing over again. Just a minute. Could you see that?
No, we aren't seeing anything, Deb.
Okay, this is taken. When I practiced this with Scott, it went really, really good. But just a second, this is worth seeing. So I'm going to try it again and do something different. I got to make sure I actually have it up, I guess. Okay.
And here we are at the start of the first event of the afternoon, the second semi-final of the 100 yards for people with no sense of direction. I'll just give you the competitors. Lane 1, Skolomovsky of Poland. Lane 2, Sanamatik of France. Lane 3, Grobovich of the United States. Next to him, Drabble of Trinidad. Next to him, Fernandez of Spain. And in the outside lane, Foreman of Brazil. Well, that was...
Okay, could you see that this time?
Yes.
Good deal. Okay, so now I'll try to get back to my normal presentation that I had going up. Okay, hopefully you can see my PowerPoint again. So, can you?
Yes.
Okay, well, what did you think about that little movie? Everybody all lined up, but then they didn't know what direction to go, so they all went a different direction. That's how I feel a lot of you might feel right now because you don't know what's going on in your school, but you need to ask so that you are providing whatever services your administration is promising that you will be providing. Okay, what challenges? You might have people that are out sick, so you're going to have to work shorthanded. You need to maintain social distance while you're working, which might be kind of hard, and practice extra food safety even more than you did before. You might want to use your salad bar or your POS system, but how can you do it with minimal touch? What if your school closes again? Do you offer takeout meals or delivered meals like you did before? We have asked our USDA Denver office to check on this for us because our thing is, it was pretty nice to do it in March, April, May, and June, but with winter coming, might not be so nice to be standing out there giving out to-go meals or even delivering them out in the country like some of you did. So we have asked USDA to please clarify, do you have to provide meals, and could you ask it two ways? If the school says we're closed for distance learning, that'd be one thing, but what if parents just don't want to send their kids to school? They want to be distance learn? Do you have to provide meals to them? Okay. Also, food and supplies might be scarce. Maybe you don't want to provide meals for that. As soon as we know the answer on this, we will tell you, but I do think they might veer towards at least for free and reduced kids. We're just not sure. As soon as we know that, we'll be sure to tell you. On your POS system, it's not just a free-for-all that you can give a box of free meals to every car that shows up. Now you're going to have to account for which kids take it, and unless you're lucky enough to be a school that's all CEP free or something like that, otherwise everyone will have to be counted free, reduced, or paid, and it can only be the kids in your school. You have to get reimbursable meal counts at the end of the serving line. You can't use classroom counts, and some people might be mad because they were used to getting all those free meals all summer. You have to keep your distance from your other cooks. This is 2 3-foot yardsticks, so that would be 6 feet apart. If you were lucky enough to be on the food safety and beyond, maybe you heard Michael Lee say that you don't have to wear masks in your school when you're cooking like this. Obviously, if you're serving and standing next to each other, you would need to, but while you're preparing during the morning and such, if you can keep this far apart, and don't use this excuse to start a sword fight with your coworkers, please, then you wouldn't have to wear a mask. Some people might be more concerned than others. I'm sure you've seen the news, and like half people think masks are good. I think it might have gone up now, but there's still a huge amount of people out there who think everything is a hoax and they don't want to wear a mask. You need to respect both viewpoints, but I would say if your boss says we have somebody who's really scared or compromised, we're going to wear masks as much as possible, then you better do it, because otherwise that coworker might just not come to work. And you want to work shorthanded, you can stagger your lunch breaks so you're not all out in the cafeteria at the same time or in the break room. Maybe take breather breaks once in a while, go outside or to your car, possibly even in the freezer. I would just say this, like the yardsticks. Don't take advantage of it to be saying you're on a breather break all the time, can't go out and work. So that you don't have to have so much hand-to-hand contact, you can use a cart system to roll things to each other. And you might also think about this. If there's some work that doesn't necessarily have to be done in the morning before lunch, maybe it could be done late in the afternoon, and somebody who doesn't want to work with a bunch of other people could potentially come in and do things like prepping vegetables, maybe even washing dishes. I was at Fargo Public a few years ago before they got their new central warehouse. They actually had a dish room, and that all their schools sent their dirty dishes back to the central warehouse, and two ladies who worked from 1 in the afternoon to 8 at night put all of these trays in what I'd describe as a shower stall almost, to wash all the dishes, and got them ready so that the next day they could send the clean trays out. You could think of that too. I mean, just things that might not need to be done all at once with 4 or 5 of you in the kitchen. Possibly split it up a little bit. One thing about going back to our National School Lunch Program, School Breakfast Program, it's way harder than the summer food service program was. Plus, we pay you less per meal. So, more rules, less money. Not exactly the greatest. You have to have half the grains be whole grain rich, but you don't need to put in a waiver for that or anything. You can just make sure in a week things are half whole grain rich. We feel like the manufacturers have definitely come around that you can get what you need whole grain rich. The water requirement, that's kind of a stickler. We asked USDA about that because we know it's already hard enough to wrap everything and do everything now that so many schools put plastic over their water fountains. What about having to offer water that a student can enjoy with their meal? So far, they said we can't have a waiver on that. But if you do send meals home, we're saying you don't have to send water with those meals because they do have water and cups at home. Right now in the school, in your serving line or on a cart, whatever you're doing, you can fill some cups with water that you can hand to the kids if they want water. Another way would, this isn't expensive, but a real easy way, you could have, like the juice cups are with the peel tops, you can buy little water cups like that or little water bottles. Maybe set them with your milk, and if a student decides they want water instead of milk, that's fine. You cannot advertise that choice though, because water's an extra. It's not really a choice against milk, but most kids wouldn't drink 2 different things. So if they just took a water, you're fine. The veggie subgroups, ooh, this is a real thorn in everyone's side. Right now, we don't have any waiver on that. You still have to offer the veggie subgroups. So you're going to have to plan 5 different veggie subgroups that you offer once a week, unless we hear we could get any kind of a waiver. These are the reimbursement rates, and I did not realize, but in Linda's session, she talked about them too. So you just know you're getting, in the summer, you got $4.15 or maybe even more for a lunch. Now for a free lunch, you're only getting $3.58. So it is more rules, less money. If you are going to have kids either come down to your cafeteria, or even if you serve in the classrooms, somebody needs to keep track of those meals. Before, everyone had kids punching in their own PIN number on that PIN pad, and you don't want 200 kids touching the same pad. So one of the things you could think about is getting a scanner that reads barcodes. And I realize we're going kind of back in time, because 10, 15 years ago, all of you had barcodes of all of the kids on a sheet of paper that was in a page protector, maybe with either their name or their picture by their barcode, and then you scanned them as they came through the line. That's real easy for elementary classrooms that come in order. But if you have middle school and high school kids who come all mixed up, scrambled together, you might have to issue little cards again. They were like credit cards that people used to use before with their account number on them, and then they just hold them up and you scan them as they come by. That way, if you wanted to have like kiosks all over your school to kind of split up the serving line, that would be one way you could do it as well. Oh, I put this up here, not like I'm advertising this brand. Again, no endorsements, but it's only $50. So something like that would really be time saver instead of trying to look up everybody's number for them. you can repurpose your salad bar into possibly a breakfast cart or a lunch cart. And if you are one of those places with no cases whatsoever and you're thinking of running your salad bar just like normal, and the health inspector says it's okay, go ahead. But with most people, we're going to say this: no communal tongs, where everybody's touching the same tongs. So maybe you use your salad bar where you set out fruit, juice, dried fruit, maybe other cold items like yogurt, cheese sticks, sandwiches, salads. Tell the students to only touch the item they're going to take. Don't crowd things together. I mean, leave a little finger width so that someone can grab just one item. Have another layer underneath, separated either by plastic wrap, or you can stack shallow steam table pans on top of each other that are full of the next pile of fruit, juice, whatever. If you can't trust the kids, you might need to have a person stationed right at your salad bar who could dish up trays for people what they want. I had one person call me and say she had a plan that she would have a whole bunch of boxes of gloves and have each student put on gloves and then go through the salad bar and then take those gloves off and throw them in the garbage. And I thought that might take a lot of time. I mean, if you can do it, fine. Then I was talking to someone else who was going to come up with a way that they could schedule only 22 kids would be in the lunchroom at a time. You could do this, each person wears their own gloves with 22 kids if you wanted. But when I was talking to the first one who had way more kids, we came up with, what if each student had their own tongs? Like you buy a whole bunch of cheap tongs. Each student uses their own to go to the salad bar and then puts it in a rack or a bin or something when they're done to run them through the dishwasher. I mean, that might work, unless you had one of those kids who's like a deep diver into whatever. Even though they have tongs, they put their whole hand into the food. So that might be a time when you think, well, maybe we'll use gloves, or we'll have somebody hand the items out, or we'll just wrap everything individually. But one good thing about this, finally, since you don't have your big vat of cheese out there with the big tongs in it, it might be a way to stop people from taking a pound of cheese. All right, glove do's and don'ts. When you're putting on your gloves, don't blow into them. Some people think that they can wear a whole bunch of gloves and then take one pair off and then use the next set of gloves instead of washing their hands and putting on new gloves every time. Some people think they can wash those gloves as if they are just like your hands. And they might go and do something like empty the garbage, answer the phone, things like that. The thing about gloves is that they're not like magic that kills germs. They're just like your hands, only protected a little bit better. So if you do touch something that might be contaminated, like your phone or the garbage or anything else, you still have to change gloves. And I realize it is very expensive, but I think you're going to have to bite the bullet on this expense. We do know that all of the schools did receive COVID money, quite a bit, like millions. So if you haven't heard if you're allowed to use any of that money, you might talk to your administration and say, hey, we have to buy all of these gloves and masks. Is there any way we can get some money from the general fund to help with that? And just bite the bullet on the gloves, because you don't want to be the first person in the state who has a big outbreak at their school. Even though it won't be your fault, it's probably a kid's fault, it still happens, and you don't want to see that. Well, I was going to play this little Chef Cyndie glove movie, and now I'm a little leery since I had trouble with that last switching of screens. So maybe I'll just wait until the very end, and if we have time, I'll still do it. But it's less than a minute. I tried to email it to some people, and it came back that it was too big, though I could email it to Rhonda in our office. When I can show it to you, and if you want it, I can send it to you on your cell phone, because that's how I got it. I took a cell phone video, less than a minute, showing you how to take your gloves off. And one thing you'll notice is she doesn't bite them. Like I saw a guy in the grocery store wearing gloves all loud and proud. Then his phone rang, and he actually put his glove up to his mouth and bit it off so he would have his fingertips so he could slide his phone over. I thought that was hilarious. that's a big glove no-no right there. All right, when you do repurpose your salad bar to set like the fruit out, it would be like this. Notice some of these are not a finger width apart, so this might not be a really good example, but that's what we were kind of thinking when you set things out individually wrapped or in portion cups. And yes, this will take some time, but it beats having to switch out the pans and the tongs or make each kid put on gloves in between times. Here are some different breakfast carts that you can get. Some of these are really, really light. I think I have this one up closer, this one. You can see up on top, they have some granola bars. They have cereal, fruit, milk, juice, different juice that you could use in your serving breakfast. This is a really light one if you don't have very many kids, if you wanted to take it down the hall, down to the classrooms. This is one that has absolutely everything on it. It's a sturdier cart. They have room for silverware and napkins. Okay, what are some good things to put on your breakfast cart? Individually wrapped items are the best, especially if they're in clear packages so the kids can see what's inside without picking it up and turning it all over. Now, because we are going back to regular NSLP and school breakfast, we have this very special meal pattern for the pre-K kids. And before, I gave you all this loophole. If the pre-K kids were co-mingled with the other kids, and the only way you could find out who they were is if you would yell out, hey, any pre-K kids here, and scare them to death, that you could just use your NSLP meal pattern. However, if you are getting kids coming down per classroom, or you're serving in the classroom and you know these are pre-K kids, I mean, you just know that, then you have to use the pre-K meal pattern. I put the handout differences between pre-K and NSLP in the chat box, and we do know that people are having a heck of a time getting the handouts out of the chat box. So I'll send you electronically all of the handouts later after this. Anyway, some of the biggest differences between the pre-K and our regular NSLP are that they can't have flavored milk, so they can't have any chocolate milk. The cereal has to have 6 grams or less of sugar per dry ounce. We've run into some of the cereal you guys use, even though it's whole grain, that has 9 grams of sugar. So that would be off limits for the pre-K kids. Yogurt has to have 23 grams or less of sugar per 6 ounces. I've never seen any yogurt with that much sugar in it yet, so I think you'll be all right on the yogurt. But this is the worst one. Grain-based desserts do not credit for grain for pre-K meals. So that means no donuts, no Long Johns, no toaster pastries, granola, breakfast bars. Notice, for pre-K, the first time I ever talked about this, people thought they couldn't serve any of this stuff to any of their kids. You can still serve all of that to your other kids, just not the pre-K kids. You can, to pre-K kids and all your kids, serve muffins, quick breads, cereal, pancakes, waffles, toast. So we're going to look at some examples. And remember here, these will say brands on them, but that doesn't mean I'm supporting certain brands. It's just that it was a good way to show some examples of what you could get.
Deb, we do have a couple of questions if you want.
Yeah, let's stop for some questions. Okay.
Okay, I'll have you mute yourself just for a second here, Deb. Looks like Rhonda did cover one of them already. We had a question about the about cross-contamination regarding using the same tongs at a salad bar. And then the other question had to do with, can the kids put hand sanitizer on before going to the salad bar and use the same tongs? Deb, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Yep, sorry, I was taking a quick drink of water there. Okay, on the all using the same tongs, I would say that is not a good idea. I mean, you can ask your health inspector just in case you might be in one of those towns that doesn't have any cases. And even using sanitizer before they go, I don't know. That's a health department question. I would definitely ask them if they thought that would be allowable. I really think this would be a great teaching moment with your kids and teach them how they have to be really careful that they don't let their fingers touch any of the food, touch just the tongs. I'm not sure about that sanitize your business though. I guess the health department has the ultimate say in anything like that. What was the other one?
I think that was the only two. There was a question that Rhonda had responded to regarding, do portion cups need to be covered?
No. And that's kind of an interesting question too. Can you still hear? My thing says sharing system audio paused.
No, I can hear you.
Okay. We were talking to somebody, I think it was the health inspector, about if you are serving meals out in the hallway or sending kids down to the cafeteria to walk back to their classroom with a tray, would everything have to be covered on the tray? And the answer we heard was, if they were 6 feet apart, no. And if you think about before, you didn't cover absolutely everything in your lunchroom. What you're trying to mitigate right now is that somebody wouldn't breathe or sneeze or cough over this food. So you'll have to see, like, you wouldn't want to send 3, 5, even more people like that up to the salad bar at a time. You might make them just whip through there real quick, one at a time, because the whole thing is you get it from other people's breath. You don't want to be close to other people is the biggest thing. And if you're really questioning whether something needs to be covered, ask your health inspector. But I would say if it's individually portioned, just sitting in a salad bar and you don't let 10 kids crowd up there at a time, you'd be okay not.
Only questions in the chat this time, Deb.
All right, sounds good. Okay, so, oh, I feel like my, all right, there. I hope you can see that. This is a 2-ounce quick bread, counts for 2 ounces of grain. If a student took this and a fruit, you'd be okay, because bread counts for 2 things and then fruit would be your fruit. That's 3 things. This is a little mini loaf, which is a quick bread, counts for 2 ounces of grain again. If a student took this with a fruit, that's a reimbursable meal because this counts for 2. Okay, here's a little donut. It's a whole grain donut and it counts for 2 ounces of grain. This is a Baker Boy one, but this would count also for 2 with the fruit. How about, this is how it looks in the package and out of the package. Here's another one. This one is apple filled. It's a new thing that they have in and out of the package. Little John's, people have seen those before. Big John's. I mean, just a sec, I went too fast there. I have a question here. What about these Long Johns? The big ones, the little ones, these apple filled donuts? Can the pre-K kids have these? No, 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 because those are all considered sweet grains. So the little pre-K kids cannot have those items, just your older kids. How about this? Chocolate chip pancakes. Could the little kids have those? Yes. How about this cinnamon roll? No, that's considered a sweet. But look at this. This is cocoa banana quick bread. Notice the name quick bread. Could your pre-K kids have this? Yes. And here's the recipe for it. It'll be in the handouts when I send them to you. Now here's another thing. This is a 1 ounce whole grain chocolate chip muffin top. So just remember, this would only count for 1 bread. This is the chocolate chip one. Here's my question here. Could I serve that muffin top to my pre-K kids? Yes. And why? It has the word muffin in it. Even though we can see it's actually a fluffy cookie, it's considered a muffin. So it's okay for pre-K kids. Who knew? This is the same thing with a mixed berry muffin top. This is the bags they come in so that you can set them out individually wrapped. This is how they come in frozen pucks you just throw on a tray. These are some other items that are individually wrapped. However, that little Fruito with the fruit inside, that would be considered a sweet grain. Little kids could not have it. The same with the little mini Cinnies, but the little mini bagels would be okay, and the little mini waffles would be okay. You just have to be sure you don't have what's considered sweet grains for the pre-K kids. Here's another thing that could possibly work for your older kids. You could do pre-K kids if you didn't count granola, because even though people think granola is all healthy and everything, it's considered a sweet grain for our pre-K kids. You could make banana splits that have fruit, use yogurt as a grain substitute, and also have real grain if you had granola on there, that if a kid took that and there was a half cup of fruit, half cup of yogurt, and about a ounce, which would be a little less than a quarter cup of granola, that would be a reimbursable meal. Here's a really neat tip I like about this one. See the one on the left that has huge chunks of granola? You might be tempted to bust those up, but I found out this from Michelle in Bismarck. When they put their granola in their granola parfaits, they actually left the pieces bigger like that because the kids liked them. They could pick them up with their hands and eat them like a snack. They could even use them as dippers to dip into the yogurt. Because if you think about the granola that's all crumbled up in the middle picture, if you had that in your hand, you'd pretty much be licking your hand to eat it. The chunks are actually a lot nicer.
Deb, we have a quick question.
Okay.
I'm sure it's regarding the items, not the banana splits.
Okay.
Natalie wants to know, if we use these things, can a microwave be offered to the older students to warm them?
That is totally up to your school, because these things all come in frozen, and then you just make sure that the day before you take enough to thaw out to be room temperature. If they really want them warmed and you want to offer a microwave, you can. But I would say that some schools who have started using a microwave, they get in big fights about who has to clean that microwave. If you don't mind cleaning it, that's fine, because kids are kind of messy. But also, I would think about this. Try to make sure it doesn't become something where people bring leftovers from home and then warm them up in your microwave. You wouldn't necessarily want that going on.
Okay, we have one more question.
Okay.
Amanda wants to know, if we have a family with a child with an allergy in our school and they choose to distance learn for this school year, do we still need to purchase an alternative regarding peanut butter and sun butter?
Well, just for that student, if that's what you're going to offer them. But I would say if that student is a nut allergy student and they're not even in the school, then the rest of the kids at school can have regular peanut butter, if that's what you mean by your question. Because your thing is, you needed to keep the student with the allergy safe. If they're not even in the school, then you don't have to be a peanut-free school.
Amanda says yes, thank you.
Okay, yay. Good one. Okay.
Looks like we have the same question as before. Can we allow the kids to use microwaves this year?
This is totally up to the school, but I really see this going sideways with 10, 20 kids lined up to use the microwave, and it wastes their whole lunch period. So I don't know. I mean, you've got to decide if you don't have that many kids, but then here's the other thing. How many kids are going there and touching the same buttons? Do you have somebody who could go out there and sanitize the microwave buttons in between every student? I think that might be more of a question this year, and maybe you don't want to do that.
Okay, that's it for questions right now.
Sounds good. Thank you, Melissa. All right, here's another idea for a hot item. You could have a breakfast burrito wrapped, offer it with milk, juice, and salsa. If they take the burrito and that cup of salsa, that's a reimbursable meal, because you can sub vegetables for fruit at breakfast. Now we're going to swap out our salad bar to be a lunch cart what you could do is make wrap sandwiches that you set upwards so that whatever kind of filling is in there shows. Or if you make like wraps or submarine sandwiches, cut them in half and then wrap them so that they can see that they're roast beef or ham or turkey or a mix or whatever. You could, instead of having big vats of lettuce, tomatoes, cucumbers, cheese, things like that, you could actually make up a bunch of salads of the most popular items, set them in there wrapped. Maybe on some of them you even put a meat and a grain in there so that it would be a reimbursable meal if they grabbed just that. You could have some chef salads, some taco salads, something you might call fiesta salad. You could have a fruit and cheese and French bread plate that might be a reimbursable meal, and bento boxes. I had in my handouts some bento box ideas from Land O'Lakes that I'll also send to you, but they're just, oh, I should have put a picture in here of them, and I think I did not because, oh, here's one. Okay, you can make these up in 3 compartment, 4 compartment, or 5 compartment little bento box deals. If you have enough in there, it can be a reimbursable meal, just that. Even if you offer it with maybe more fruit and milk, they don't necessarily have to take it. I gotta see if I wrote anything right. You can put as many components as you want. The student can take it with or without milk and be a reimbursable meal. Here's some little individual cheese things that you can do instead of your big vat of cheese that the teachers were used to grabbing half a pound of. Little bento box, they're so cute. I know some schools have made their own. They call them imitation Lunchables, but the handout that I have for you has all kinds of ideas of different things you can put together in a little box. All right, maybe you want to do some of your own packaging. We were on an S&A webinar where we saw, well, this was not actually on the webinar. There was a little chat afterwards, and some person from a small school told us they got this machine for $300, and you buy the little containers and the plastic wrap from the company that makes the machine, obviously, and you can package up some of your own things. You can make things that are just a half cup serving of one thing. You can have 2 compartment, 3 compartment, or 4 compartment little like Lunchable trays and make some of your own. This is just a random salad I threw in here just so you can see if you made a salad and then wrapped it, people could see what you have in there. Another thing.
Oh,
okay,
sorry, Deb.
Yep, that's good.
I don't want to miss these questions. Karen wants to know, since we are offer versus serve, could we put breakfast in a bag on a day when not a hot item with everything but the milk? That way they could include the napkin and the disposable silverware in the bag.
Yes, and you could actually do that every single day, because this is another very strange thing about our meal pattern. As picky as they are about so many things, there is absolutely no requirement to ever serve anything hot. Ever. You could serve cold foods as long as they met the meal pattern every single day for every single meal. So yes, that'd be a great grab and go breakfast.
Okay, one more question from Cheryl. So then a bento box would be their entire meal?
It could be. Just remember this, you have to offer everything. You have to offer it with milk, which isn't in there, and say you only get maybe a half a cup of fruit in there, then you have to offer, for little kids, a 3/4 cup of vegetable. For big kids, you need to offer a cup of fruit and vegetable. But what you could do is have a basket of oranges and apples just sitting there that they could take or not take. I would try to get, for sure, the half cup of vegetable in there. And then you can offer other vegetable, I don't know, just random bags of little baby carrots or whatever that they could take if they wanted. They just don't have to. I mean, remember, it's offer versus serve. You have to offer the full component, but they only have to take 3, and that fruit or vegetable just needs to be a half a cup, what they take, but not what you offer.
Okay, I think that's all the questions at this time.
Okay. All right. Another thing you could do, I saw this up in Grand Forks many years ago. It was a really swift idea. They took a bagel and spread it with cinnamon, brown sugar, margarine, and then warmed them up. Smelled like French toast. It was fantastic, and people could see what was in there. They used ovenable wrap. You could put meat, egg, and cheese in there, on a bagel or on a biscuit. You can make a pizza bagel. And if it was definitely a bagel would be a 2-ounce grain. If you got 2 ounces of meat or cheese on there and then served it with a half cup of marinara sauce, that's a reimbursable meal. Again, this is what they took. You need to offer it with milk and more vegetable and with fruit. Oh, I actually wrote that here. Sorry, I felt like I was yelling at you there. Okay, wraps. They can be hot or cold. You can place them in a bag so that the students can tell what it is. Hot sandwiches on buns or on biscuits, also in the ovenable wrap. You can use your stuffed breadsticks. 2 of them is 2-ounce grain, 2-ounce meat. Have it with marinara. There's a reimbursable meal right there. They don't need to take the milk or the fruit, but you offered it. I feel like my mouse stalls out every time I talk. Okay, that's just a picture of a really pretty bagel sandwich. I don't know where you could get any pepperoni that small, but isn't it neat? All right, say you don't want to pre-wrap everything. If you have your students still coming to the cafeteria, what you could do is dish up like 5 trays and push them out on the serving line. So one is right in front and then they're lined up and the student can grab that first tray and not touch anymore. What you might have to do though is teach them that if they don't want some item, just say, hey, I didn't want green beans. Then you can make up a new tray without the green beans. If you might want to take a cart down the hall to do some serving, you could do the same thing. Stop at a classroom, have the kids line up, like poke maybe 6 feet out of the classroom door, and then have them come up to your cart just like they would to your cafeteria window. Serve all of them and then move on to the next classroom. You could take a hot cart and a cold cart. I don't know if Joe Oster from Jamestown told me that idea that he might think of doing that. That's why I found this a cart that has hot wells on it. Might be heavy though. You might have to get somebody pretty strong to help you push that. Okay, I have some sample. Do you have any questions yet, Melissa?
Nope, not at this time. We did have someone post a picture of their, looks like their microwave station. So everybody can check out the chat with that little picture from Jennifer.
What a good idea. I'm so excited we have that chat for this. Okay, now I'm going to show you some little sample menus I snagged from some people. This one has some different choices for breakfast. I really think that this is from Bismarck. And here's another one. This is from Austin, Texas. And this one is breakfast. This one is lunch. This looks very similar to Michelle from Bismarck's again, but I'm not positive. The reason I put this one on here, see, it has our little bento box choice every other day and a bag lunch choice every other day. That's a way you can write what you're having in your bento boxes. Well, now I'm going to show you something pretty slick. I think this is from a foreign country. If you wanted to just run your lunchroom like normal, people sitting at the cafeteria tables could potentially get shields like this and set them up so they can sit there and eat and talk to each other, but they can't breathe on each other. That's pretty neat, I thought anyway. Restaurants could do that. Even if you had a very small table, you could have one of those square making 4 little partitions and 4 people could actually stand together pretty close eating, but they wouldn't be breathing in each other's breath. Okay, on your distance learning to go and delivered meals, I guess to make it really easy, I would send the same meal home that you're serving at the school, unless that you consider that difficult and you want to make something else, that's fine. I do know lots of people sent home raw food because they had a freezer full of pizza, chicken nuggets, tater tots they wanted to use. You could include cooking directions, or if you're really big, like Dickinson was, they put all the cooking directions out on their website and then they had instant contact or whatever so the parents could find them all. You can include little we care notes. You can send meals for multiple days. Just remember, no toddler meals, because right now under NSLP, it's only our enrolled students. And no matter how you say we're CEP, we're provision, we're high poverty, whatever, sorry, only enrolled students. Here's some little notes I got from Gina Harder from Bowman. she put these, this was in chicken patties and with a little note, "We miss you." Then this was with the breakfast that she sent, the taco, egg and cheese, tells how to cook it. This is a little hamburger, talks about that one. And she gave a rabbit food, carrots and Brussels sprouts at Easter, with a little trivia that the longer you cook them, the more they stink. This is our website. This is our contact information and the link to our website. This is non-discrimination that we always have to say. So I'm going to take this part down and see if I can get that little Chef Cyndie glove movie up, because I think you'll really like it. But do we have any questions, Melissa?
Well, we do have a hand raised from Kim and Lena. Not sure if they have a question. I will unmute them to see if, I think I can do it. They can unmute themselves.
Okay, yay.
Yep, you were already able to answer it. I put it in the chat.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Nice to see you guys. I didn't know we could see their pictures. Okay, I'm going to try this darn sharing screen with the glove deal and see if it works. I'll get it up first so I know what it looks like.
Those gloves together.
Okay, can you guys see this? I think you can see it. I'm hoping you can. Can you hear? I'll try
Yes.
again. Okay,
Yes, we
watch.
can.
Right, Janae? So we're going to pinch by the cuff, and we're going to pull down, putting the glove inside the other glove. Put 2 fingers underneath the other glove, peel away. Okay, now you've got one glove inside the other. It's going to be safe to discard those gloves together.
I know it goes really fast. I'm going to try it again.
Right, Janae? So we're going to pinch by the cuff, and we're going to pull down, putting the glove inside the other glove. Put 2 fingers underneath the other glove, peel away. Okay, now you've got one glove inside the other. It's going to be safe to discard those gloves together.
Okay, that was the one that, just a sec, I wonder if I'm still sharing. Nope, okay. That was the one that is too big to go through email. So if anybody wants that for teaching people in your school, I'll most likely have to send it to your cell phone. Unless you have, you know, really big email, I can try. So you can contact me. If you want it on my cell phone, just message me. Please not until like past 4:30 today, because we're doing another session till 4:30. 391-2884, and I can send you that little movie. All right, that's really all that I have. I'm going to get the emails from all of you, which I sent you a tester link yesterday, so I can send you everything except the glove movie. Any other questions?
We have one more question in the chat. Are we using plastic silverware or wrapping silverware?
Well, that depends on what you want to do. I would not think it would be touchless at all to have your forks sitting there in the cylinder where they can touch 10 of them when they grab their own. So in that case, I would wrap silverware if you're using real silverware. Otherwise, use disposable. I'm just not sure how you could spread them out far enough. Maybe if you're grabbing a tray to put the first thing on it, maybe you could just put a fork on it. Because we consider that the cooks in the line wearing gloves are clean. I mean, they're not going around touching other things. So if you are only grabbing a clean fork, putting it on a clean tray, and now putting, I don't know what, a hamburger or pizza on there, that would maybe be better, because you could probably grab it just as fast as having the kids dinking around out there. Anything else?
Nope, it looks like that's all the questions. There are a couple people that did post comments on what they are doing in the chat, so check that out.
Okay, well, thank you very much for attending, and you should have got another invitation from us to, at 3:30, join a little round table where you can ask some questions. You can pick small, medium, or large school district. And we'll have 3 different things going from 3:30 to 4:30. So you have time to run to the bathroom and get a drink, just like me. Thanks for
Just a
listening.
reminder to everybody, when this meeting is over, please make sure and exit the meeting by hanging up. That way you're not on hold in the meeting and attending something else. Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Bye.